Coincidentally, one of them is in the room with us. Garage Door Guys from KC is a big sponsor of us and the supporter, and we also have Armwrestling Strength Shop, which Gabi, we got to make that announcement at some point during the show today who won that contest. But also, we have a bunch of Patreon members that we need to thank. And we're talking specifically about the alpha level that get a shout out every week on the show, and that's Zane William Nisley, Jeff Frank, who happens to be in the room, and Bruce Willett. Guys, how's it going? Welcome to the show. Today we are joined by Bryan Koerner and Jeff Frank. And our topics today are going to be all over the map, but we're going to talk a lot about promoting arm wrestling tournaments and what's involved in that. But how are you guys doing this morning?
Doing great. Appreciate you having us on.
Yeah, really good here too.
How are you guys keeping with all the things that are happening in the world today?
I try and stay off social media so I don't get aggravated.
Yeah, I think, that's exactly right. I'm wearing my American shirt, the Second Amendment rights, the Constitution, fuck Justin Trudeau, and that bullshit announcement.
Oh, my God. How many assault rifles
I got to say. I got about 4.
Oh, and you actually do have to get rid of some. Okay, wow.
Oh, yeah.
Well, sorry, man. I'm sorry to bring up a touchy subject on our show that's never really controversial, right?
That's right.
What announcement was that?
Yeah, what's the rule? I missed that.
So basically, effective immediately, Justin Trudeau banned 1,500 different styles of AR firearms, completely incriminating law-abiding citizens. No science, no FBI statistics put behind it. It's just a knee-jerk reaction to the shooting that went down in Nova Scotia. Effective immediately, there's no sales, distribution, or trade of any of those style firearms. And then the amnesty program they put in, anybody that owns one, they have 2 years to give them back to the government.
So you're just losing those guns.
Yeah, pretty much. He did say there's going to be a buyback program, but really, I mean, I don't really care about that. It's not the point. This is just politically motivated, and it's just absolutely utter bullshit to, attack someone instead of putting that money towards a task force of illegal firearms. The shooting had nothing to do with it. He wasn't licensed. It wasn't even AR style firearm that he used. It's just to gain votes, and it's pretty aggravating.
Well, I always thought that assault style firearms were illegal in Canada anyway, or was it just with a restricted permit?
Yeah, you got to have a restricted permit. There's already legislations in place. You can't have more than 5 rounds in a clip. It can only be semi-automatic. You can only use them at a licensed gun range. You can't just go out in your back 40 there and start firing off rounds. So there's already huge provisions in place. I mean, if you look at over the years how many mass shootings in Canada have been even using AR style, it's minimal. So in that case, there's 10 times the amount of drownings. You might as well ban water. You might as well ban cars because there's way more car accidents. It's just, yeah. Anyways, we should talk arm wrestling.
Yeah, we should. Unless Gabi's got something to add on this subject, because I see the wheels.
No, I'm not a Trudeau fan. People think I'm a Trudeau fan because I criticize some of the American politics, but I'm not a Trudeau fan at all. I think he's on the other extreme. I think he's too fucking soft, and I think he's when he speaks, you can tell he's not genuine. So I don't have no horse in the race here. I don't own guns, but I feel for Jeff. He's not much of a leader, so sucks for Jeff. Sorry, Jeff.
Oh, it's all good. I mean, it just to kind of expand on that too. He even banned larger caliber long rifles too. It's not even assault rifles or AR style. He even banned anything that produced enough energy over a certain amount of joules. I can't remember what it was, 10,000 joules or something like that. So if you do go hunt in Africa and you use like a 460 Rigby or something like that, I mean, that's banned too, and that's just your standard hunting rifle. So it just produces too much energy, so it's too scary, I guess.
Yeah.
Is he supposed to use a slingshot or what?
Right? So.
Well, back to the arm wrestling, we had an announcement come out, and it looks like Levon at Vendetta is going to be going, and this is my interpretation just from seeing the graphics that have come out, Denis Saplenkov left-handed, and Dave Chafee right-handed.
Good. I love that.
Yeah.
That's a long day for Levon.
Mm-hmm.
That's a really long day. I don't.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Go ahead, Chris. I was just gonna say. I think. I was just gonna say. I think he'll struggle. It depends on where Dennis's training's been since his hospitalization there, but I think that's a pretty tough battle left-handed with Dennis.
I think whether it's coming from his camp or the promoter, but I think they're just trying to cement his name as undisputed #1 arm wrestler on the planet right away, right out of the gates. No confusion, no debate, and it's ballsy. I like it.
Bryan, any thoughts on that one?
No, I 100% agree. My only thing that I would be curious about is where Dennis is at. How healthy is he? Is he 60% of where he was, and he's still got 8 months to get healthier? Where's he at right now? It would be my curiosity.
Yeah, he doesn't look physically like the guy that pulled Devin Larry left-handed. But is he confident that he can do what's necessary without killing himself? And that's the key, because he, let's face it, I mean, he dabbles in the fine arts a little bit, and he
that's not dabbling. That's not dabbling.
That's science.
That's a lot. That's vials of HGH a day.
Well, and maybe some stuff we haven't even heard of, but it's at a level where he's just not the same human being as the rest of us.
Yeah.
And it has taken its toll, and I'm not sure if that's directly what put him in the hospital, but one would think that if you do what you did again, it got you in trouble the first time, you're going to be a little bit less resistant.
Yeah, one would think.
Yeah, one would think that, Robbie. All right, let's get into the subject we came to talk about, promoting tournaments and the nuances, possibly the unknowns by the competing arm wrestler. So you guys want to talk about your level of involvement for promotions? I mean, Jeff, we know what you were building. And we should talk a little bit about that. But Bryan, let's start with you. What's your experience? Because a lot of people probably aren't aware of the stuff you've done as far as promotions go.
Okay. Been in the sport about 5 years. Really took a liking to tournaments. I love tournament pulling. First few tournaments I went to, there were some things that made me really question. It's like, why is this taking so long? Why doesn't it seem to be going very smooth? A lot of hiccups along the way. And I just saw myself some opportunities, and speaking with Ryan Johnston, who's a good buddy of mine, we together started putting tournaments together. I ran some for Travis with NAL, the Brockwell, and anything WAL within 5 hours of my area. I usually run. I've ran some for Travis outside up in Illinois, which is 7 hours away from me. I just have a different mindset when it comes to tournaments. Gabi, I agree with you 100%. I'm not ever looking in to make money. Now, do I want to generate money so I don't lose money? Absolutely. And do I believe that I want to have rock star trophies, and do I want to make sure I get paid back for those? Absolutely. But I don't expect by any means the 60 to 100 hours of prep time that I put in. I don't expect to get paid my hourly rate that I make in my own job. But I do expect I want to at least break even. The first few tournaments I went way crazy and lost about $1,000 on each tournament. And then common sense started setting in, and the wife was like, hey, why are you throwing this money away? I understand you want to run great tournaments and you want to have, put Kansas City back on the map as being a mecca of arm wrestling, like back when Ruler of the Nation was here and when Underwood was doing top rolls, and there were some just awesome tournaments. And I kind of want that to be back here because we have a lot of studs in Kansas City. Stud pullers.
Oh, yeah.
And Yeah, and ideally, I'd love to be able to get like nationals here sometime because we're smack dab in the center of the country. We got a hub airport. There are plenty of things to do. I know a lot of people think Kansas or Missouri, just a bunch of flat nothing, but we have plenty of stuff here to do that's, not all that dissimilar from like Dallas, but it's essentially located. It makes sense from a demographic perspective, so more people can make it in here.
Right. Well, that's cool. Now, Jeff, you want to touch on your experience before we get into the deep dive?
Yeah, well, I mean, me personally, I've been in the sport not very long now. I've been going for 3 years. But yeah, when it comes to promoting events, I've always been good at marketing and stuff like that. So, I mean, I've been wanting to do this for a few years, and I had a vision of what I wanted. I'm on the same page as Bryan. You go to a lot of tournaments, and I'm not going to name any names, but it's some are really poorly ran. They just drag out. There's lots of downtime, lots of just the action's not continuous. It's just poor prep in my mind. I had a vision of obviously running a really big tournament. I wanted to bring one to Canada that was going to be a blockbuster, put the effort in, and obviously I'm not looking to make a dime. I wanted to do this all for charity. My charity was to drive having good sponsorships, where we could actually make money, but the money's all going to the charity. It just helps, so it gets more people involved when it comes to sponsoring events. So yeah, that's kind of where I was at with mine.
Now, Jeff, your event isn't canceled, right? It's just postponed.
Yeah, I postponed it. I just carried it over one full year. That way, I could retain all the sponsors.
Yeah.
I'm probably out about $4,000 with the shirts and stuff like that, but
yeah, fucking.
Gabi, how about your experience in running events?
In 2009, I decided to run one, and go big or go home. I had John Brzenk pulling Sylvain Perron. John backed out last minute, and Travis replaced him. But I wanted to do something different, and I wanted to. All the money coming in was going out, and I had. It was basically a quintuple, one round, one class right-handed tournament. You can lose 5 times, quintuple elimination. Top 15 got cash. And I did have a small sponsorship, so I had all my refs covered. I had the scorekeepers covered, and it was a great experience. The only thing I didn't like, there's a lot of moving parts, and I think the tournament ran on a Saturday. John canceled on a Thursday, I believe, which left me. Luckily, Travis came in. Well, Travis was going to be there anyway, so he took John's place, and Sylvain beat him anyway. But it bothers me that there's things that can fall apart at the last minute that is totally out of your control. I'm sure both Bryan and Jeff can definitely empathize with that, and especially with the current situation. So it was fun, and I also said to myself I'd probably never do it again. It's a lot of work. I'm not good with multiple moving parts. I'm not good with a lot of stressors. But everyone had fun. It was so yeah. So it was a good experience. I just don't know if I'd ever do it again.
Well, I'll tell you a little bit.
Can you guys still hear me?
I can hear, yeah, and it's actually way better now. I don't know what you did, but that echo is gone.
I think those earbuds I had weren't very good. So
okay,
yeah,
it's much better. There's no distortion.
Yeah. So my experience, and people probably don't know this because it's been a while, but I took over as president of the Manitoba Arm Wrestling Association around 1999. And I was president for over 10 years. Ran provincials every year, ran multiple tournaments throughout the year, ran a national championship in 2004 and another national championship in 2010. Probably lost about $5,000 of my own money on the final nationals I ran in 2010, just because I wanted to, like, Gabi, you remember those trophies.
Yeah.
I mean, when you're giving those things away, they're $100 a piece times what, 75 different divisions.
Fuck.
Like it's
yeah.
So we it was a tough slug, and I still run the odd one maybe once a year. And so where do you guys want to start? Like the nuances. I'm curious to hear what it's like running one for Travis, to be honest with you.
I'll tell you what, Travis gets such a bad rap because he acts like an asshole a lot of times, which is him. You guys have had him on, and everybody knows Travis. I'll tell you what, that man has never once, everything he had ever said he was going to do, the times he's came out and stayed at my house, 100% accurate. Everything he ever said he would do, he followed through with. And for me, getting my respect and earning my respect is not the easiest task, just because I don't have the greatest faith in humanity for the most part. Not that I'm just this grim asshole by any means, but I just don't really trust people. You got to earn it. And Travis earned every bit of it. He calls me about once a month to say, "Hey, what's up, Beast?" With his typical calling everybody Beast, and just chit chat about anything and everything. I mean, he offered his home up to me for my wife and I if we wanted to come out to the DC area. He's like, "Hey, fly on out. You can have one of my cars. My house is your house." And I mean, that's for someone like me, who's at the end of the day probably not much of anyone in the arm wrestling world, and I'm fine with that. But to have a legend like him, arguably one of the top best ever, that he would do that for me, I think is just fantastic. And he's real. I mean, yeah, is he full of himself? Absolutely. Does he have a right to be? Hell yeah. I mean, he's the man. He's awesome, but he's also a great guy.
Yeah, he's a very, very special guy in that fact. He has a skill that no one else in the sport has with his charisma, and it comes off. That's why he attracts so many people. When he's in a room, he demands the attention because he does come off. When he tries to, he always comes off genuine when it comes to his when he's talking to a group of people, and you can't you can either do that or you can't. So his skills are so unique in that respect, and my experience with him is. Like Bryan, everything he said he was going to do in respect to my tournament, he did. He was super supportive. He's invaluable in the sport in that respect. Invaluable.
Yeah, without question. And anytime he does any of the motocross, if it's within 4 hours, he'll call me or shoot me a text ahead of time saying, "Hey man, can you make it out?" And treats me like VIP. And I get out and pull a bunch of the people, so he doesn't have to as much. And it's funny because he'll sit there and say, "Yeah, the 165-pound world champion here, you got to be able to beat him first before you can get to the $10,000 match with me," that sort of thing. And makes you feel important, which is really cool for someone that's newer in the sport. He just makes you feel good about yourself, and he's, like I said, he's a genuine guy.
Yeah, and I'll follow up with that too, Bryan. Like, even with I've never even met Travis, but his phone calls, he called me once and asked how it was going and reiterate his support for the tournament, that he was going to be there no matter what, and offering any help. He came up with a few ideas how to run it better, whatever I needed. So yeah, I agree. He's completely genuine when it comes. I like his charisma. I like his attitude. I think he will. Chris Gobby said it best. There's just certain people that can pull that off, and it works. And there's certain people that just try to be the Travis Bajan, and they just look like a fucking fool. So
what's amazing with him is that if he wasn't an arm wrestler, he can probably kind of learn any type of interest or hobby or sport and go into a room and command the room. The difference with our sport is he's actually a fucking stud, and arguably, like Bryan said, and I believe his left arm might be the best arm that's ever existed in the world of arm wrestling, arguably. So it's the fact that that is his sport, and he owns his sport, and he commands a room with his charisma. That's why he's so valuable. If you pay him X amount of money, or he's coming into your event, there's no way him coming into your event in any fold is a bad move. He's One of the great experiences of my event was having him help with some of the support and stuff. And like I said, I criticize some of his agendas, but when it comes to him commanding a room and what he says, he's like I said, he's invaluable.
Yeah, it's kind of like the old '80s commercial, when E.F. Hutton talks, people listen. That's kind of Travis. He does. Man, he has complete command of that room.
Man, he came to my place when we ran the tournament. He came in a day or two before, and unannounced, kind of like, and he stayed at my place. And I kind of told some guys, my team, come over and we'll have a practice with Travis. And they ran over, and there was maybe 10, 15 guys. It wasn't a big place, so I couldn't have that many guys. But I had the whole province and part of Ontario pissed off at me that I didn't open it up to everyone. I didn't have a big house. But that's how much people want to be around him, because when he has a knack of making Joe Nobody feel important, feels like he's listening. Travis is listening to him, and that's a fucking incredible skill. Like he could be a politician. He can command a room with anybody in it, and you know, that in some ways is more valuable than having the strongest arm on the planet. Like when it comes to creating hype or creating a buzz for an event or making people feel like your event has has cachet, has value. Yeah, he's a very interesting dude.
I'll just mention it. Last Thursday, it's only a couple days ago. My phone rings and it's Travis is on the call display. And I answered. It's Ryan. He says, "When is that Red Deer event?" He says, "What's the date?" He had no idea it was canceled, man. He's not or postponed. He wasn't paying attention, but he was just double checking the date because he's cooking something up. So watch for that. That'll be exciting.
Nice. Yeah, I had tagged him, but yeah, I don't.
Yeah.
I'll reach out to him here and talk to him here.
He's not the most active guy on social media unless he wants to be. Yeah. So
talking about Travis is actually a good segue into one of the precursors, at least in my mindset, as far as running a good tournament. Something that's entertaining is getting some big name elite level people in there for whether it be a super match, whether it be guest appearance, whether it be just them pulling the tournaments. Like
that's an important subject. So how important do you think it is in this day and age to have a main draw attraction when you're running an arm wrestling event?
Huge. It gains you immediate credibility. When people see, like the WAL that I ran, what was it, 2 years ago? The one you came to, Jeff. Remember that super match card I had?
Yeah,
that was ridiculous. I mean, having Ron Bath come out, Cody Merritt, Paul Passmore, Bryan Sitton. I mean, you're talking some studs that are coming out to the tournament. And like Ron Bath, what a gentleman's gentleman. I know you, Chris, I know you speak extremely highly of him. That guy is a salt of the earth, stud, awesome. Made everyone feel phenomenal. And he could have easily just been, yeah, I'm one of the top 5 best ever. I'm going to sit back and do whatever I want and be an arrogant snob. Hell no. When I was in I was doing the BR Live commentating, me and Ryan Johnston were, and I had to get up and stretch my legs a little bit. And Ron just jumped right on the microphone and just took over. No question. He didn't get paid for it. He didn't ask, I didn't ask him to do it. He just saw a gap and he jumped on, and him and I had a great, probably 40-minute conversation on there.
Yeah.
And he was just awesome, sharing stories from the past. That weekend I got to spend with Paul and Ron and Cody. God, it was awesome. I mean, the guy is just, he's phenomenal. And he actually thanked me when we went out to dinner. A bunch of us went out to dinner, and as we were leaving, I remember Ron put his hand on my shoulder and he's like, "Buddy," he goes, "this is one of the best times I've had in a long time." He goes, "I owe you one." And I'm like, "Whoa, holy shit. Ron Bath owes me a favor?" Wow. Kind of starstruck, but it was awesome too. He's just a great, great guy.
Yeah. And that was an example of a very, very, very well run tournament. The location, the venue, obviously I was a little late getting there because I was in the hospital.
Yeah, in the hospital. Good excuse, man.
But when I did get, I was blown away. It was a great venue. It was running quick. There was 2 tables going. Like you said, like I was talking to Ron there, and that was a perfect example on how to run a tournament for sure. Well done.
Thank you.
Well, I'll tell you a quick Ron Bath story. Back in around 2010, we were traveling to the Arnolds, and that's when there was that huge snowstorm in Toronto, and every flight got canceled. And it was late afternoon, and I decided I was going to wait for the next possible flight before I decided if I was turning around going home. And that flight got canceled, and I phoned Fraser was already on the other side of the airport, Fraser Benoit, and I phoned him up, and he said that he had overheard Ron Bath make some comment about, yeah, Ryan's probably going to go home because he'll do any excuse he can to not pull the top guys. So I jumped in a goddamn car and I drove 10 hours from Toronto to Columbus, Ohio, and arm wrestled that tournament on 30 minutes sleep.
How'd it turn out?
It was motivational. Man, I was surprised I got through day one, but I think I talked about the very next day, you know how they go through day one, then they stop, and then you come back, and you might know your next match for the next day if it's top four, unless Crazy George has delayed the tournament for 4 hours by his first match. But my first match the next day was I didn't say who it was. I talked about a guy getting so nervous because I was messing with him because I was his roommate, and he puked the next morning at breakfast before our match. It was Matt Mask, and I ended up winning that match. I don't remember how I placed overall, but man, it was okay. It wasn't like my best performance. There were things that made it memorable, but yeah. So thank you indirectly to Ron for shit talking me a little bit, so I was motivated to make the trip.
Yeah.
So, what's on your list there, Bryan? I know you got one.
Oh yeah, I got me a list. No, in no necessarily specific order, but dates. Obviously, one of the big things is making sure that you're not stepping on someone else's toes.
That happens a lot.
Yeah, it happens a lot, and it's bullshit. And I understand everybody wants to get their tournaments, and I think it's great when people can have the same tournament roughly at the same time each year, like Pettis does with Michigan State, like Ryan Johnston does with Fallen Heroes, Bill Schumer or HD Bill do out in St. Louis, the strongest badge tournament out there. Those are all big draws, get a lot of people out there, and you don't want to run a tournament within a few weeks of that.
No.
So you got to look at everything that's around. And I know USAA's dropped, last year dropped in a ton of tournaments, ton of qualifiers, and you don't want to have the arm wrestlers so stretched out to where they are really having to make, like in the Kansas City area, say we got 60 to 80 pullers here. I don't want them to have to be in the situation where do they stick with the loyalty of me, or do they run down to Arkansas because they want to qualify for Arnold's? You know what
Now,
I
do
mean?
you guys think that should be like the first person to the table gets that date, and everyone else should kind of back away?
I think so. I mean, I believe that should be how it works. But once again, you get the tournaments like the ones I just mentioned that are always right in that general time frame that you want to make sure you're not conflicting with them. And usually, if I'm running a tournament, I will reach out to. I mean, obviously, I talk to Ryan 5 times a week, so I don't have to worry about stepping on his toes. And I confer with him before I make any dates and check the calendar too to see if I see anything. I'll comb Facebook for hours just seeing if I see anything on there that could potentially be a problem. And then put the date out as early as possible and make sure you're firm with it. And I also like giving a couple of different dates to the venue too. I don't want to just go straight to the venue and say, hey, we're doing it this day, because, they might have something going on that day. But if I give them a couple of different dates to where they don't have a band coming in at 5 o'clock to where we have to, where we're forced to fly through the tournament. Now, granted, we do. I mean, KC, we move through our tournaments and we don't dick around. We're very accurate, very poised on getting through the tournament, which we can touch on a little bit later. But like with venues, something extremely important for me is having that relationship with the venue to where I basically have complete control of the venue for the day.
Right.
Like I let them know, here's how much staffing you're going to need, and give them, here's your with them or what's in it for them. Here's your return on investment on an average Saturday during the day, which is usually pretty slow for a lot of the venues that we have partnerships with. And I'll be like, look, you're going to have 150 arm wrestlers here who drink beer, who eat food. You're going to have that grill open at 10:30 because right after they weigh in, they're going to want to stuff their faces. So you've got to have, instead of opening your grill at noon, you're going to need, some extra hands on duty early and often, because in my opinion, if I take full responsibility for the tournament 100%, if they don't have enough staffing there, that's on me. If they don't have enough cooks, that's on me. So I make sure that ahead of time that I basically tell the bar owner, the bar manager, whoever it is, I'm like, you need to let me have some control over how the business is ran for the day. Not just from where we're going to set up the tables, scorers tables, line of sight for everybody, so we don't have people, we don't really want like an L-shaped environment, because you can't, not everybody can see. So those are some things I take into effect. when picking out a venue, I reach out and ask them to give me their liquor sponsors, or excuse me, their liquor distributors, so I can reach out to them and say, hey, look, personally, I don't care what the trophy says as long as or whatever the award is. I'm like, look, yeah, okay, Budweiser, your name can be on it. It could be the Budweiser KC Classic. I don't care. Just as long as it's a badass trophy, something that's unique, something that people are going to want. You give me the money for these trophies, your name's plastered all over it. Either that or give me a big, a couple of big banners with the tournament on there. We've had some success where we've gotten some banners and all the top dogs there, we have them autograph it, and then we, might auction it off at the end or give it to the puller of the day, whoever showed the most poised and whoever had like a ton of grinder matches, whatever, those are just some things to generate some money that you can work with the venue with. You also got to look at parking. Can it necessitate having 150 people there? Is there enough restrooms? Making sure ahead of time, letting them know, hey, you're going to need someone that's on cue with making sure we got toilet paper, because you got guys who got chalk all over their hands. Toilet paper, paper towels, that sort of, breaking down to that finite details so everything runs really smooth.
Yeah, that is interesting. Maybe we should touch on a few of those points you brought up right now, because as far as the dates go, I mean, we have a good system of communication in Manitoba where I talk with my tournaments run independently. So I'm always in communication with the association to try to have a minimum of 2 weeks between events, because they run so many that sometimes that's all you can get. But ideally, three to four would be better. Venue is important, and I've seen it actually where something goes a little bit awry, like there's no paper towel in the bathroom. Like these things are problems and people don't like it. But Jeff, what are your thoughts when you're kind of putting together a mega event?
Well, yeah, I'm on the same page. So, in Western Canada, there's a lot of tournaments in a very short time frame, and you'll see, many of these being, held on the same dates. And of course, you can drive to Saskatchewan or BC and within hours. So there's a lot of that, not a lot of communication. You see that quite a bit, where there's even 2-3 tournaments on the same day. We had that, last fall. There was, I think there was 2 or 3 going on the same day in BC alone. There was a Fit to Fight one going on there too. So it's like, the communication isn't that good. But I know in Alberta, when I put mine on, we all have our, our monthly meetings there. So we lay out a schedule for each club when they'd like to hold their tournaments. I talked to Kane quite a bit with Fit to Fight. And so, I was well prepared when it comes to dates to make sure, that I wasn't stepping on it. There was lots of time trying to talk to Daryl Stephenson there about when Nationals was going on, and then into, actually Worlds was announced after, but, we have Mayhem in the fall too. So just making sure I had actually aligned mine. So there was at least, I think there was 3 weeks between any other significant tournament. So yeah, I mean that communication and dates is huge. Like, having these tournaments on the same day, and it gets way too scrambled.
Yeah. No, I completely agree with you. So venue, we covered a little bit about picking the ideal venue. You mentioned Kane's tournament. I've seen a few things like observations about Kane's event, because he loves to run the long event.
Yeah,
but it kills the venue, because a lot of the arm wrestlers take this so seriously that they don't indulge in the drinks or the food that much until the event is over. Yeah. So you have some of these staff that aren't busy when they should be, and the bar is full, but they're not doing the business they should. And then by the time it's over, the kitchen's closed. So we have problems that way. But
in Kane's case, it's a simple fix: run 2 tables and get rid of the triple elimination.
Yeah, get rid of the triple and run it. People love it, man. But I mean, my last tournament took 2 hours to run, and it was perfect, and we were at the after party on time.
Yeah.
One of the things that even when I'm in an event that I have no affiliation in, one thing that frustrates me, because I would have zero tolerance as a promoter if I was promoting an event, is watching. And this happens all the time for whatever reason in Quebec. I don't see it in Vermont, in the States, in New Hampshire when I'm competing in the US, and I don't see it in Ontario very much. But in Quebec, I would say that 8 out of 10 people that go into a venue bring their own food and drinks. And if they were told not to, because all promoters in Quebec will say the bar, you cannot bring your, but they'll sneak it in. Or halfway through the tournament, they'll go to their car and sit in their car for 10 minutes and fucking rail down food. And that fucking infuriates me, because basically what you're saying is, I want to take advantage of the situation. I don't want to have to pay more than I have to, which in turn is saying I don't really give a fuck if the sponsor or the restaurant or the venue signs up again for the next event. And it's a super selfish move. And I can tell you a couple of times, even though I had no affiliation, I've gone up to somebody and said, man, fuck, how the fuck do you take that shit outside or order some fucking food? Holy fuck. It's not hard to support an event. You show up and you don't have to fucking spend $80 on food, but holy fuck, do not bring in brownies. I've seen guys bring in fucking Tupperware brownies and give it to his teammates. Like, unfucking believable. That, even speaking about it, pisses me off. And I'm not even a promoter. I just think it's so fucking selfish to do that, because if I bring in a bunch of guys to arm wrestle and I'm supporting the event, and I see guys coming into my restaurant, my business, bringing in fucking finger food and sandwiches, I wouldn't have them back again, just on principle alone.
Now, are they special brownies that might actually?
No, man, no.
They're Dutch brownies.
No, we're talking French guys. They don't need special brownies to act stupid. But no, man, I just find that so
insulting.
I don't know. It's super insulting. And basically it's a fuck you to the, even though they don't realize it, it's a fuck you to the promoter. It's a fuck you to the venue. It's a goddamn business. The bar owner, the venue owner is bringing you in the hopes that you will, buy something. You don't have to buy a lot of stuff, but maybe don't bring in your own Gatorade. Maybe don't bring in a gym bag full of bottles of water. Like, holy shit.
Well, that's one thing they should prep the venue for too, because I've seen it a lot of times where you're going into a venue and there's no Gatorade, there's no sports drinks, there's no energy drinks, there's no bottles of water for sale. It's like beer or hard liquor and pop, and that's it. So prepping that venue to bring some of those things in is important as well, so they can actually make some money off of it.
So here's the question for you guys. And here in Alberta, we're in a unique situation because we cannot hold an arm wrestling event where they serve beer. So it's in the Alberta Liquor Act that you cannot have a combat sport of any kind, hand, whatever it be, arm wrestling, actually specifies arm wrestling in a bar or a licensed facility. And of course, when I came on to took over the presidency of the Alberta Arm Sport Association, we had it in our constitution there that no puller whatsoever can be under the influence of any alcohol, can't be drinking during the event, or they can't pull at the event. I think it's fucking utter bullshit. I'm not a fan of it. When I said my event, I said, if you think I'm bringing these guys in from all over the state and saying fucking sit in the Westerner Park in Red Deer, but you can't fucking drink till fucking midnight, they'd rip the place apart. So that's my thoughts for you guys.
Well, I have an opinion on that. I mean, if you're holding a tournament in a bar, you should expect them to have a couple of drinks. Being intoxicated and having a couple of drinks is different. If you're holding a tournament, my wife just chimed in. She says, that's terrible for the arm wrestling wives in Alberta. The people you bring with you, why can't they drink? So that's
can't even in a licensed facility, so that wipes that out right there.
Yeah.
So, but as far as our constitution goes in the Alberta Arms Sport, that was just geared towards pullers themselves. But the Alberta Act, it was that you couldn't even hold an event in that facility. So,
well, if you can't do that, then you just need to, you have an opportunity for an after party with a sponsor there. Like, if you can drag all those arm wrestlers, and they have to be a little bit selfless, because they can't just hit the door running and do what they want to do. But there needs to be maybe an incentive. But when I hold my event, I try to hold it's at a non-licensed venue, but we try to hold an after party at a certain time at a licensed establishment. So we all head there after and drop a bunch of money. And usually that place is sponsoring the event in some fashion.
Yeah, and that's what I did too. Was when I did mine at the Western part there. You know, obviously not. I mean, they're a licensed facility; they can serve alcohol, but it's not a bar or a night, whatever. So I was good. But I said, "Fuck it." I said, "You know what?" I said, "I wanted 4 cash bars going. We're running that thing from noon till we're done for 2 days straight. I don't care about anything else.
I'll be back in 30 seconds. Excuse me real quick.
Yeah, you bet. Hey, Jeff, you're just rolling the dice on that one then?
Pardon me?
Are you just kind of gambling on that one a little bit that you're going to surfing alcohol?
Well, when it comes to the loophole with the Alberta Gaming, I mean that'll be fine because I can do that because they're not a light. I guess they're not a bar per se, right?
Right.
But they are licensed because they have the Western Hockey League there. They have the Red Deer Rebels, so they can serve beer, yada yada yada. But it's not a bar, so I wouldn't be doing anything illegal. But as far as the Alberta Arms Sport Association goes in that law, I just could care less. Like, I mean, I don't. I couldn't imagine a 2-day event as big as that one where people can't sit around and have some drinks and socialize and have a good time. Now I get it. You maybe don't want guys up there, and I'm not going to mention names, but we got one specific guy here. Alberta likes to drink pretty heavily while he pulls. And,
no.
He can. He's before the event even gets going half the time. Fair enough. We can draw a line somewhere.
I could probably name 10 Alberta guys that want to drink while they're arm wrestling.
Yeah. So that's
that is interesting, and I cannot imagine bringing my wife, who is watching this, to an event and making her sit there drinking water all day long. She doesn't hate arm wrestling, but she's not as big of a fan of arm wrestling as I am. So there needs to be some other kind of things for them to do, just socializing.
Yeah.
We're talking how Alberta can't hold an arm wrestling tournament, in an establishment with a liquor license, and Bryan's sitting there thinking, if they tried to do that in Kansas City, that would be civil revolt. Like,
yes.
I mean, if they tried to do that in the United States, that'd be fucking game over right there. Fuck, that's terrible. I always ask myself why, over the period of the years, every time I saw an event held in Western Canada, it was always at Legion Halls or malls. Malls is a big one. I've seen it often at malls, West Edmonton Mall being one. That's crazy.
Yeah, that's exactly why.
Yeah, and there's been a real effort to keep arm wrestling out of bars as of the last 20 years. But I think people have kind of backed off of that a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah. I mean, when I went down to WL Kansas, there, Bryan's event there, I mean, that was held in a bar, and I mean, that was just an absolute astounding venue. It was. I loved how the location was great. People are down there having a good time, drinking, doing your thing. It was completely professional. The establishment was beautiful in there. So, it wasn't some dive, a shithole bar. Like, you can make your selection during the tournament and hold them in these establishments that are, that look great. They look professional, and Bryan did an absolutely excellent job on that. That was great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, what's next on your list there, Bryan?
Oh, I was just gonna, as far as the venue goes, showing the ROI for them. I didn't quite finish on that. I've got numbers from every tournament I've ran as far as actual revenue, margin, average ticket on their Saturdays compared to the tournament Saturdays. So I can actually go in there with proof and say, hey, here's how much money you made. You can either give me a check for, say, $700 or whatever. I ask for some money from the venue at first and say, hey, I need this much money up front, or, I want 20% of the sales. Either or, you decide, because I'm bringing you a bunch of additional business that you were never going to have. which I think is only fair because I turn that money right back into the tournament anyways. I mean, just the way it is. And I ask them for, maybe not free food, but if they can at least comp, give me 50% off food for my refs, for the MC, for the scorekeepers, because I want to make sure that they're taken care of. End of the day, running a fantastic tournament's all about casting and not being so damn arrogant that you think you can run everything yourself. It's casting the right people in the right, in the right positions. Like Ryan Johnston, most amazing. God, he can blow through brackets quick. The guy is amazing at it. Actually, he taught my wife how to do it, so my wife's been running the brackets for me here of recent times because it seems like Ryan's always commentating with me, and he's pulling too. Having fantastic referees. I guess that's another one. I'll have to get to that in a minute. But that's about it as far as venue. Just making sure everything from start to finish, anything I've ever seen that bothered me at a tournament, I try and make sure that all those bases are covered ahead of time.
Yeah.
So we just don't run into any hiccups.
Yeah.
Your comment there on the draw sheets is one of the biggest key points, is having somebody confident that can run through a draw sheet in a timely fashion without many mistakes. And that's one thing I did with my tournament was I didn't even look at I went straight to Frank and Karen Bean and asked them to come up because they're just exceptional draw sheet runners, and they were on board with that. But Tracy Arnold's a great example of somebody that's just phenomenal on the draw sheet. So yeah, that's a really key point to have somebody confident on that.
Yeah, I mean Karen can run 3 tables like it's nothing. I mean, she can do that in her sleep.
Yeah.
We're getting a weird clicking noise in the feedback here, guys. Is anything going on on anyone's end that might be causing that?
Not my end. I'm good.
I mean, I'm sitting still.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's continue. Oh, it might be those headphones, Brian.
Did it stop?
Yes.
Seems, yeah. Yeah, it did. Well,
I get from wearing Bose headphones.
Well, anyway, what are we talking about next? The importance of getting quality referees.
Yeah, I'd say casting would be the next thing. Making sure you've got minimum of 2 top tier referees for head refs and at least 4 very capable down refs. If you're planning on running 2 tables. I know you guys have spoken about it on the show. I know Luke Polsher was, when Luke was on your show, had talked about it as well. For me, if we're ever going to get this sport to be out of the underground world, it's got to be professional. And I'm not trying to steal Luke's thunder but the points he made as far as any other sport out there, soccer, baseball, football, hell, even the damn, what's that beanbag thing called? Cornhole. They've actually got referees in uniform. But yet you can watch any, it seems like there's a lot of tournaments out there where you got some, I don't want to make it sound like this, but I don't care. Get some sloppy looking guy wearing a sleeveless shirt, half shirt, his ass crack hanging out. Boy, is that something we really want our potential viewing audience to see, that's as professional as we can get as far as a referee. I mean, Christ almighty, that's horrible. So
I see you've pulled in Tennessee.
But I mean, everybody, I always buy for tournaments, the ones I know that have always done great jobs for me, like Cody Vanderwoord. He's probably one of the best refs in the country. And I've pulled all over the United States up against anyone. Like I bought him a referee shirt with his name on it. And Luke Stanley's another one. He's already got a WAL shirt, a referee shirt, because he was certified by them back in the day. But I have ref shirts for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, play the role. Play the role. Let's be professional about this. I don't want to see someone up there in a T-shirt. I mean, I've seen it. I've seen it even at nationals, or what they call it, nationals.
AAA.
Yeah, I mean, come on. And that's a national event, and that's the best we can come up with. And I understand. I mean, believe me, I get it. Reffing, no one likes to ref. I ref all the time. I hate standing still. I mean, I do, but I enjoy reffing. But play the role. Play the role. Look professional. It's never going to be considered professional if we don't look professional. So that's a big one for me. And paying. Hell yes. I mean, yeah. Will any of those guys do it for me just because? Yes. But me knowing that I'm going to pay them and me telling them that I'm going to pay them, I'm going to get that much better, more effort out of them. And they don't think that I'm just, I'm not using or abusing them. I'm not saying, hey, I need you to stand up there for, 6 hours while we blow through 250 entries. I want to at least give you something for that. I'm going to pick up their lunch. I'm going to, maybe pick up their drinks, and I'm going to pay them cash money because it's such an integral part of the tournament is having great referees.
Oh,
it's just you and me, buddy.
It's just us.
Yeah.
We figured out that the noise was coming from it sounded like Jeff's computer or Jeff's phone. So he backed out. I don't know what happened to Gabi. I'm sure Gabi will be back in a sec here.
I guess I bored him. Damn.
Well, they're both back.
Yeah, I don't know what happened there.
There we go. That's better. I think no more clicking sound for the time being. Jeff, can you hear us?
Can you hear me, Bryan?
Yes, sir.
I can hear you, Jeff. Can you hear me? Uh-oh. Gabi, can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm just kidding.
I can see Chris.
Yeah.
You see Ryan?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
If you guys can hear me, ask Jeff to back out one more time and then come back in because his audio is not working, or he can't.
Jeff, Ryan wants you to back out and come back in one more time.
Anyway, shall we continue on?
Sure.
We're talking about refs appearances, taking care of your refs, all good.
Absolutely. Having a great MC, someone who can liven it up. Good announcements. Someone that really can fire the crowd up, because you know how it is. You can get real stagnant or a lull. Another thing a good referee does is when they got a grinder match, is referee raising their hands like, "Hey, crowd, get into this. This is a hell of a match especially because you got to figure 20% of the people there have no idea about arm wrestling, because you got some just regular traffic coming in. So the referee should be making sure that the crowd is into it as well, along with the aid of the MC.
Right.
I believe that'd be very true. A really good MC, that's a tough job. I mean, that's a really tough job. All the jobs that are part of a tournament are very tough. They're mentally exhausting, which is why getting the right people in the right place is so imperative. Like we're lucky that granted his schedule doesn't work out as well, but Ryan has had Donnie or Underwood do some emceeing, and hell, that guy's crazy. He is awesome on the mic. I mean, he is just phenomenal. Him and Travis both can just take the mic over. They got that natural poise, and they just make you interested in what's going on. It's really, really good. I know for commentating like on BR Live, because I seem to be doing that a lot. I study as much about everybody around as I can that I know that's coming to it, so that way they feel important instead of me just going, "Oh, yeah, there's a hook win." I can actually talk. Hey, we got Corey Johnston out of Oklahoma. He's been pulling for 4 years. He trains with Jeff Hale. I can actually speak about him a little bit because I want to do some pre-interview and get to know who they are. Even though I already know pretty well who most of them are, they're going to be coming to the tournament. But anybody that I don't know, when they're filling out their paperwork, I'm going to ask them some questions right there so I can know a little bit about them, because who doesn't want to be made to feel important,
Yeah,
so
exactly.
I think that's important. And then sharing that information with whoever the MC is as well.
Yeah.
I also do believe that on for any of the super matches, having an intro instead of just them all standing in front of the stage going, okay, yeah, we got Bryan Espy out of Canada taking on Cody Merritt out of Utah. Let's spice it up some. I love WAL's intros. I mean, those are fun. They're exciting. It gets you pumped up. It gets the crowd pumped up. I think that's imperative as well. Like getting someone that really hypes up the super matches. Even if it's just two novices, make them feel just as important as the elite guys. Because they're pulling on the same card as they are. So
yeah, exactly. Jeff, can you hear me now?
Yep.
Great. Any thoughts on that, Jeff?
I'm on board 100%. When it comes to reffing, I kind of took a lot of flack because I didn't involve any Alberta referees in my tournament. But I mean, we don't have a master referee in Alberta. I didn't want to cut any corners and just do. I wanted the best, so I brought in Bill Collins from the state. I brought in Rick Pinckney, Anthony Balonio. I had the best. I even had Joey Costello at one point, but he backed out when he seen some other coming out. So, so yeah, I mean, it's imperative to have, when you're doing the setup, to have everything in place and have the right people in the right position. I mean, like Bryan said, it hinges on having a good supporting cast. Any of those people are not up to the task. I mean, it can really, I've seen it before. It can make for a really fun-out tournament. There's lots of downtime. There's lots of mistakes. And so I just felt bringing in a really super important. And yeah, and when it comes to, like Bryan was saying, the super, I mean, I agree. I totally think just having something that gives people goosebumps so important. Like, that's for sure. I had for mine. I had a 4 stage. I had like their own walk, just like you'd seen in the UFC, where they'd be walking out. The lights were going to be blacked out. I had stage lights and just a fucking killer tune to be playing while we announce them in the countries. Stephanie had flags they'd come out with their flag, but just something that really gets people like, I'm fucking excited.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well, which when you're talking about the intros and all the different super matches you had, maybe it's a good segue into the length of the event and how to manage that.
You want to go, Jeff, or you want me to?
Go ahead first.
Okay. So it's very important to have monitors, whether it be a projector, but some sort of TV monitors, to where you've got the brackets on there. We make it very, very, very clear to everyone. You have 30 seconds to get up to the table, or it's a loss, period. In a discussion, you can see the brackets. It is your responsibility, and not to be a Nazi about it, but we are, because we need to move the tournament along. Anytime you're getting over 100, 150 entries, all it takes is a couple of long grinder matches, a couple of Jerry Michael matches, the 7 minute long, and that can slow the process down dramatically, because everybody's going to want to watch that. The other table that might be pulling, they're going to stop pulling to watch that killer match. So we make it very clear to everybody. We go through every class and say, if you do not hear your name and this is your class, get up here now. So before we ever scatter the brackets out and start the tournament, we go over that. Before we start each individual class, we do it again. All right, here's the 165 open right hand. Blah, 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 blah. If you didn't hear your name, but you feel you should be in here, get up here right now. And we'll give a couple minutes, and then we'll start the class. And we literally are bam, bam, bam. We run through the class. And I mean, heck, we did last year at Fallen Heroes at Ryan's. We went through like 360 entries, and we did it in 6 hours. And that's with taking a couple of breaks. I mean, that's hauling ass.
That's incredible.
Yeah, but it's all about, everything was planned out from A to Z. We had it all planned out, all mapped out, and we just did it. And we set the expectation for everybody, and everybody knows it now. At least the people that come to our tournaments, they know damn good and well we're gonna move through it. We're gonna move through it. We do have a time frame we need to stick under. No one wants to be at a tournament for forever. Hell, the last tournament I pulled, and I'm not going to mention any names, but my God, there was like 104 total entries. It took 8.5 hours. I mean, for fuck's sake, I was like, you know,
we run into that a lot up here, and it's well, I mean, we're talking 8 to 10 hours for 60, 70 entries.
wow.
It's ridiculous. It doesn't need to be that way, but there's also only one table, and figuring out the computerized system of bracketing that nobody seems to be an expert on. I used to run paper brackets, and I could call the matches and run the bracket by myself and have it wrapped up in a couple hours.
I mean, there's a few different electronic ones out there. I mean, you got Corey Miller's set up, but I haven't purchased Corey because I run Mac. Everything I have is Mac, and I don't think he's got it transferred over to Mac yet. But we go on challenge.com and just use that. It works just fine. I mean, you can set up, and that's what we use, and we breeze right through it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's nice and easy. One other thing I would definitely want to throw a shout out to. Michael Ware. I don't know if you know him, Ryan. He's super. You would have met him out at 16 and 17 in Vegas.
I'm aware of him, yeah.
Yeah. He is so invaluable in every tournament I run because he's got 3 teenage boys and his wife, and they literally beck and call. Anything I need, bam. They do it. They just automatically jump on it, and that is such an important part because if I see something like, oh shit, I forgot this, Michael, bam, and it's done. Like I don't even have to think about it. I don't have to follow up with it. Like if I forgot to, a simple thing like an American flag before because I always make us do the Pledge of Allegiance and the American anthem, international anthem before we start. And I always have a military, whoever was in the military, I had them hold the flag for us. I mean, there's been times that 10 minutes before we were starting, crap, I didn't get a flag. Michael, and he's gone, and he's back. I mean, just immediately. He just the little things. And that is so important, having someone like that that's, I hate to use the term gopher, but he's just there to take care of all the little stuff that are his last-minute things. And he's done that so many times to help me. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, that person is important.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now,
so, didn't mean to get off on that, but
I'm gonna throw a question at you guys. Triple elimination, yes or no?
I'd say it depends on the quantity. Depends on how many people.
Yeah. Holy fuck no.
I mean, I've never pulled
fucking
one.
Crazy.
So I'm intrigued. So as a competitor, yeah, that'd be kind of interesting because I don't really get into long matches because I hit pretty dang fast. So I pin him in under a second or I get pinned usually in under a second. It's one or the other. Depends on whoever gets the best hit off. So I'm intrigued by it, but I wouldn't want to have 100 pullers doing a 3 triple elimination. I mean, that's a recipe for a 12-hour day.
Well, exactly. And we do it at our nationals.
Yeah, like I'm not a fan of it at all. Like, when that the Kane's tournament there, like, and that's nothing against Kane. Kane's a great guy, but it just seems it just doesn't end like I'm not a fan.
Well, and then the ceremony at the end where you're giving away your awards or doing your important thing. Like for example, at the Canadian Nationals, we have Hall of Fame, or we have the John Miazdik Award, or all those things being given out. Nobody stays around because they just want it to be over at that point. And triple elimination, I mean, the only thing that would give me any reason to say yes to it is because one of the guys I've trained, I watched him come off the seaside to win the national championship.
Wow.
So that is the only reason that I would have ever supported it. I hate it. And one of the reasons I hate it is because it's very confusing for the people watching. Like, you're supposed to take the class down to the top 2, take a little break, come back for the finals. I went through the last nationals I was at was the last nationals we had was Edmonton. I went through the top, all the guys, and I was alone on the A side. But before we were in the finals, I had to arm wrestle the guy on the C side, just because that's how, or the B side rather. So it's very confusing to work that format out, and it takes forever.
I bet.
And it's not easy for guys running the brackets to do it either. I personally hate it. I'd like to see it go away.
Agreed.
Yeah, I don't even know. I don't even think I've ever heard of one in the States. Triple elimination one. Nothing comes to mind.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's other ways to drag. It seems to be for the purpose of dragging out the event, or maybe getting guys that aren't going to win many matches more opportunity to pull.
Yeah. A lot more promoters are trying
And
to
I can see
cater
that
to the.
because if you got some newbies or just someone who's not very skilled yet, you know, you hate to see them make a long trip and then they go 2 and out. So that at least gives them an opportunity to at least pull more than just 2 matches. So I can understand it from that point of view, but God, from a timing standpoint, that just seems so drawn out.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's rough.
Well,
something else.
Yep.
I'll just say something else that we do at every single tournament. It's either me or my wife. One of us goes around to every single table, every single one, bar none, thank them for coming, and do a start, stop, continue exercise with them. So, what did you like that we did? What did you not like that we did? What do you think we should do? Just getting that feedback directly from not just the pullers, but from the fans who were there, or anybody that just happened to be at the bar that day that was intrigued about arm wrestling. So going and getting that feedback from every single person that's there and personally thanking them for taking the time out of, taking their day and coming out and sharing it with us.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, that is very important.
I wish some promoters around here would do that more often. Simply because I don't think I've run into a few that are not open to any type of criticism or feedback. But how do you improve if you're not open to any suggestion?
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. And another very, obviously we touched a little bit on awards, getting really just, you saw, I'm sure, Ryan Johnston's Fallen Heroes 5, those giant, big, badass axes he got. Those things are like $150 a piece. I mean, they're huge. They're like 4.5 feet long. They're monsters. And, we like to try and stay on the cutting edge and not do the same thing over and over and over. Like we did for 2 years, we did hammers, but everybody and their dogs got hammers. I mean, don't get me wrong. I had them custom made. They were really cool. I had them Line-X. They weren't powder coated. They were Line-X. I had diamond engraved 2-tone. I actually got one downstairs. They're really, really cool looking. And then like Jim Coyle made these really badass ones last year for his tournament in Tulsa. And me and Jeff Hale won the 165. I won right, he won left. And they're these big, giant, God, they're like 6x8 timber pieces that Jim had taken from a house that they demoed. And you remember those state championship ceramic WAL things that they gave out in like 16?
Yeah.
He embedded those, carved those in and embedded those into the hammerhead itself, and then created a hammer out of it. And the grip on it was rustic rope. So that was a cool one. But you can only do so much with hammers. So, hammers aren't really that big of a draw. Belts aren't really that big of a draw. So what is something that's unique, something that's going to catch someone's eye and be like, wow, I haven't seen that before. I've got to have that. Right. I've got to have this. Michael Todd, he's got, I don't know if you've ever been to his house. He's got, Jesus God, 3,000 trophies. Like literally. He loves them all. And that's cool. I mean, he's got them all displayed up, and he wants to come to the Fallen Heroes just because he's like, man, these axes are awesome. I want one. And that's pretty cool. You get, top in the world wants to come to our tournament because of a trophy. That's telling you you're doing something right.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, and I had these signs made. Buddy of mine, Jason Biava, out of Illinois, his cousin actually makes these signs. Jeff, you saw those here. The signs I gave the super match champion and the overall champs. He's got some proprietary way of making to where they look like street signs, but it's just a beautiful picture on them, and they're impervious to any type of damage. I mean, like I sat there with my keys trying to scratch this stuff off, and it was hard as hell. But they're really cool. So they were kind of heavy ass street signs, 18 by 24, that I had for each individual super match champion, and then for the overalls as well. I mean, those signs weren't cheap. I mean, they were like $80 a piece, but you go those little extra distance, you spend a little bit of that more money. Yeah, I might not make money on the tournament, but at least I get, hopefully some good memories and stuff people want to display. So that they remember, hey, that was Bryan's tournament. Or, hey, that was Kansas City. That was awesome.
Yeah. Well, gents, anything we want to touch on about promoting events that we haven't already?
No, I mean, I covered pretty much everything that I had jotted down as far as notes. James Reed, I talk to him frequently. Like the wife calls him my boyfriend or whatever. Yeah. He was talking about doing Triple Crown. I don't know if you've heard about him wanting to do that. Basically, where he wants to take New England states, CNY, so the New York State Fair, which is always huge. They get like 400 entries, and possibly work with Pettis at Michigan State. And with those 3 tournaments, any person that wins their weight class at each of those events, and basically it's right hand or left hand. You can't win both, but James has these beautiful Triple Crown coats that he's making for anybody that does that. That way it promotes all 3 of the tournaments and gives people incentive to want to go to all 3 of those tournaments.
Right. I've seen that done in the past.
Yeah, it's really cool. And they are also each chipped in $1,000, so $333 each. The 3 promoters, Josh Grant, James, and Steve, they chipped in up to $1,000. And if only 2 people get the Triple Crown, then they each get $500. If 4 people do, they each get $250. It's just a little extra incentive. And you obviously want to keep that coat. And every time you continue or you do it again, you get like the general badge, stripes down the sleeve. You do a really cool, you know what I mean, just showing your rank, for lack of better terms. But that's a pretty cool keepsake, and it's not something a lot of people have. I know that Denise and Leonard, for overalls, they have really nice jackets for the Pro-Am that they run every year. But this would be, the Triple Crown, something else. I mean, that's all 3 of those tournaments are huge, and for you to get in there and tear it up, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
For someone that can win their class in each of those 3, because you have to have a minimum. If you're masters, you got to have a minimum of 4 or 5 people in class. If it's open, then you got to have, I think it's a minimum of 10 people in the class. But hell, every one of those tournaments, when I got my gorilla at Michigan State in 16, hell, I was 18 deep in the class. I'm like, damn, that's a big class. Because it was like my first year of arm wrestling, and I'm like, man, I'm walking into the jungle here. There's a lot of people in that class.
Yeah.
So that's something that James, that he's trying to get done, which I think is a really good idea. And maybe that's something that you guys can do, something similar like that, to where you got tournaments that are close, or work something out like that to where you're promoting each other's tournaments.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like that's a good idea. And Eric Roussen does something similar up here when he gives an incentive for somebody winning their class at his Ottawa Open and then going on to the Nationals, which we're not going to see this year, but yeah.
Did Gabi disappear? I haven't seen
sure.
him.
Gabi's still there.
Oh, I just don't see him.
Yeah, well, he's hanging in there. What else you guys want to touch on before we wrap the show?
Chris, I do have a question for you.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yeah, shoot.
He can hear you. He can hear you.
Okay, hear me. Okay. Well, then you're going to have to relay it for me then. So I've watched all the shows and I've heard some mentions here and there. What's your best? And this is for all three of you guys. I want to know what's your best win that you have in the best single tournament you've ever been at.
Jesus Christ.
Well, I can. Well, the best win. Oh my God.
I know you had a million, Ryan, but one where you were just like, that's why,
It was when I pulled 2008 Nationals in Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan, and was able to beat just murderer's row, both arms. I think the top three were myself, Earl Wilson, and Len Houghton.
Wow.
That would be the one.
Okay.
That's the top tournament. I mean, I've beaten lots of guys. Like, I've got wins on the who's who, but as far as the caliber of tournament and what had happened in the previous 2 years to that, that one meant a lot.
Okay. Jeff?
Yeah, for me, I mean, I went and maybe bit off a little bit more than I can chew in those two super matches against Chuck Young and Curtis Kuczynski. And of course, when I lost those two matches, everybody was fucking messaging me in their event. They all wanted to go. That last super match I just had in March there with that guy, from Lethbridge there, he called me out. He says, "Oh, you want to come?" I said, I'm coming. So I went down there and smashed him 3-0 like nothing. And so I'm just going to say that just because it was retribution for me, everybody's saying, "Oh, you fucking did this. You shouldn't." I don't give a fuck. I'll fucking arm wrestle anybody just because I enjoy doing it. I didn't go down to fucking Montana thinking I was going to rip through Chuck Young, but I wasn't going to say no. I'll go give it a fucking whirl and see where I'm at. Or,
Yeah.
you take those two losses, and everybody is. I had offered a few super matches right after that, and that was one of them. So go down there and just say, listen, fuck off. Like, I mean, so I'll put that up as one of. That felt pretty good to go down there and get that back. So, as far as the best tournament, I'd have to be honest with you. It was either WL Kansas at your event or the one that I did with Matt Mask and a few guys in Portland at Tim Tallmadge's event. Those are both just awesome venues and great.
Wow, awesome.
All right, Gobby, you're up.
Yeah. I don't know if I can give you one, but I'll give you three scenarios where, and all three have share something in common. 2006, 2007 Nationals, having to beat Dan Gallo only because it was with the fouls and everything, probably about 3 minutes of hooking in the finals. I came out of the B. I had to beat him twice. 2008 Harley-Pull, 2007 Harley-Pull, Lenny Lockhart coming out of the B, having to beat him twice. And the other one would be, let me see. 2013 UAL, first 17 guys in the class, all studs. My first match is Corey Miller. I lose to him. Then I have to run right through the B. Tons and tons of good pullers right through the B to get back to Corey. So all these three things where I went right to the B right off the bat in huge classes and had to come back and beat them twice. In Corey's situation, I didn't beat him. But it's just situations where mentally I had to fucking bear down like a motherfucker because, and in the Chicago one in UAL, I had to beat Tony Katowski. I had to beat Sam Harris. I had to beat a lot of fucking tough guys to come back to Corey. So I don't really look at wins or events as much as times I had to fucking really, really bear down with no margin for error against tough pullers. So I guess it would be those three.
Now, Bryan, did you hear any of that answer?
I heard.
I could.
You'll have to watch it back, buddy.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I'll catch it on the watch back or something. Must have been good because he talked for quite a while there.
Yeah. What else you got?
Those are two good questions I had.
Yeah, Jeff, what do you got?
I think we hit her pretty good. I would just reiterate kind of what Bryan was going off of there, and just the preparation, running your event. One thing that I had in place for mine was, like I said, the refereeing and running it over 2 days, and kind of the lower, the local super matches, youth, the amateur, and the women's, and then Saturday doing all the big super matches with the, and then just the pro division. as well as I was prepared to have provisions in place to run 4 tables reps just to make sure that it moved along at a good pace. And as far as trophies go, I totally agree. Being unique, having something people want, and diversified is great.
Mr.
One
Gob,
last, no, I'm sorry.
sure. Yeah, go ahead,
I was
Bryan.
gonna say one last thing. People need to not be so scared to go try and find sponsors. Anybody that actually is planning on doing, 1 or 2 tournaments a year, I mean, you should realistically file the taxes on it. And you can go up to any sponsor and just for advertising, like Jeff, with your shirts you did, the shirts I made for last couple tournaments, you can put their name on there. They can write it off. They can give me a 1099, give me $1,000, $1,500, and they can say it's for whatever because they're paying me as an independent contractor 1099, and I do it on my taxes, Schedule C, to where I know that I'm going to take that money and it's not for gain for me. So at the end of the day, I'm not going to pay taxes on that. It's just, it's a little extra legwork involved for me with my taxes. It's an extra, 2 minutes tops of work. But that way I'm guaranteed to get more money from sponsors. So I'm not having to sit there and front my own money out of my pocket up front. I think people are scared and maybe just don't understand how to go get sponsors. People will love that. And especially especially with social media today. I mean, Jesus, if I sit there and pop out just one post of thanks to my sponsor, SB Construction or whatever, and suddenly, bam, that hits 500 people immediately. One person shares it. There's another 500. It's a giant domino effect. And they're getting that constant right in front of their face. They're getting that constant recognition. Then you get it on a shirt. Throughout the tournament, you throw shout outs. Hey, I want to thank you again for the sponsors, for these sponsors, blah, blah, blah. Don't forget to tip your waiters and waitresses. They're out here busting their butt for us to make sure we've got good food and drinks, just whatever.
Yeah.
I think people are just genuinely scared to try and go get sponsors because they're afraid of being told no. But it's all about how you're approaching it. You don't go up and say, hey, I need money for an arm wrestling tournament. Hey, how would you like to advertise? And you can pay me as a 1099, so it doesn't cost you squat. It is a guaranteed write-off because in order for it to be a charitable donation write-off, they got to do that, 501c3, I think is what the charitable donation is. But then you can't make any money on it. I would like to be able to break even or maybe make $100 on a tournament. That would be great. But, it's all about how you present it to them. And sponsors got to be relevant to something in arm wrestling.
Yeah.
You just got to have the balls to get out and do it, I guess. That's all I'm saying.
Mr. Gabi, have you got closing thoughts?
No, the only thing I would suggest is we talked about having a super match. Any tournament I would ever run or any suggestions I give to anyone running a tournament is have one super match. You could have maybe 2 or 3 or 75 like Jeff's going to have. But at least have one. I'm just kidding, Jeff. But just have all of Jeff's, most of Jeff's super matches are with tier 4s and 5s, so that's awesome. But I would have, for example, living in Quebec, bordering Ontario, I would go get, or I suggest to one guy, go get Devin, have him pull a local guy, or something like that, or 2 guys bordering on a province or a state, big names. And even if you have to pay them $500 or $750 or $1,500 for both of them or each one, I believe that the amount of people that come to watch that, or the amount of people that will come with them, the entries you attract because of that super match will almost mitigate the price you pay for it. If the name is big enough, you can't get, I hate watching super matches with 2 novices or 2 tier 2s. I fucking can't stand that. I'll on principle won't watch it. But when you get 2 studs, man, everyone watches it, and people come out specifically sometimes just to watch that super match and pull afterwards. So I think if you're gonna have one big fucking super match.
Yeah.
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 All right. Are you ready to give away $50, Gabi?
Let's do it.
Okay, I'm going to back myself out of the frame. I'm going to put the video right where I am, or somewhere thereabouts. And this next video I'm showing, the contest about at-home workout, is quite innovative, and we're going to play it right now for you.
Okay, use a 75-pound.
Do you see it, Jeff?
I can't see anything either.
Hey,
assume
make
it's
sure to
Ward's
bring Matt
video.
down with you.
Yeah.
That match you had, Dan Gallo, that left or right?
Do what?
Left.
I was just,
Yeah, I was left.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. I rushed through it, but congratulations, Ward Drake. You're the winner. Setting up the table in your kitchen, basically with all your apparatus you made on there, was pretty awesome. And you're the guy that's going to get the $50 gift card, which Canadian is what, $75 right now, maybe a little more.
Yep.
So there you have it, guys. Thanks for coming on the show, man. It's been a long one, and we appreciate you coming on.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Thanks for having us.
thanks, and see you in November, Bryan.
All right, buddy. You take care.
What's in November?
Fallen Heroes.
Okay, I'm planning on. I might head down there for that one. We'll see.
Mr. Maird's probably going to be there.
Okay. Apparently nobody can hear me right now, so let's.
I can hear you. I can
Okay.
hear you.
All right, everybody. I'll see you guys around, and have a good week.
Take care.
All right,
Take care, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.